I never thought I'd be the kind of person who ended up pouring their heart out to strangers online, but lately I've been walking around with this weight in my chest that I can't seem to let go of. It's like I've been replaying the same series of events over and over again in my head, and no matter how many times I try to distract myself, it creeps back up on me. Writing it out feels like the only way I might start to release some of it, or at least feel a little less alone in all this. A little bit of background. I grew up in a family where stability was something you had to fight tooth and nail for. My parents struggled with bills most of my childhood, and there was always some crisis around the corner. So as I got older, owning a home was more than just a goal. It was like this finish line I'd been running toward my whole life. It represented safety, permanence, something no one could just yank away from me. When I met my partner almost 8 years ago, we both shared that dream of settling down, building something that was ours, and having a place we could always return to. Things weren't always perfect, but we were a team. We worked long hours, saved where we could, skipped trips and fancy stuff to make the down payment. When we finally got the keys, I remember standing in the empty living room and just crying. It felt like after years of scraping by, I finally had a home. Not an apartment someone else owned, not a rental with strict rules, but a place that belonged to us. I thought we were on the same page. But life has this way of throwing curveballs. A couple years after we moved in, my partner lost their job. At first I thought it would just be a temporary setback, but months turned into almost a year, and the bills started piling up. I picked up extra shifts and did whatever I could to keep us afloat. They were looking for work, but it always seemed like something didn't pan out. During that time, I started noticing little things, like how they'd avoid talking about money or change the subject when I brought up the mortgage. Then one day, a letter showed up that knocked the wind out of me. We were behind on payments, more behind than I realized. My partner had been assuring me things were handled, that they'd called the lender, worked out a plan, all of that. But the truth was, nothing had been done. We were on the edge of losing the house. I panicked, but instead of getting angry, I went into fix-it mode. I called the bank, explained the situation, begged for options. They gave us a narrow window to catch up. I didn't have the money sitting around, so I pulled from everything I had. Savings I had tucked away, retirement funds I wasn't supposed to touch, even a small loan from a family member I swore I'd never ask for help again. I swallowed my pride, signed the papers, drained what little safety net I had left, all because I wanted to keep our home. I kept telling myself we'd rebuild, that we'd get through this, and it would just be one of those stories you tell later about how you made it through a rough patch together. That night, I actually felt relieved. Exhausted, but relieved. I told my partner what I did, expecting at least some gratitude, or maybe even guilt. They hugged me and said they didn't know what they'd do without me. I thought that meant we were finally back on the same page, that this was the turning point where things would get better. But the next morning I woke up to silence. I called their name through the house, checked every room, and eventually found an envelope on the kitchen table. Inside was a note. Short, cold, nothing like the person I thought I knew. They said they couldn't do it anymore, that the pressure was too much, and that they'd made a decision to start fresh. I felt my stomach drop as I read the last line. They had already arranged to sell the house. Behind my back. Without even telling me. I didn't believe it at first. I thought it had to be some mistake or maybe just a threat. But when I started making calls, I realized it was real. They'd been working with someone for weeks, forging my signature, preparing the paperwork, and by the time I pieced it all together, it was too late. The house I drained my soul to save wasn't even mine anymore. It's hard to put into words what that moment felt like. Betrayal doesn't even scratch the surface. It wasn't just about the house. It was the years of sacrifice, the trust, the belief that we were building something together. All of it ripped away with one selfish decision. And the worst part was knowing I gave up every cent I had just hours before, believing I was saving us, only to find out they were already halfway out the door. I've been staying with a friend since then, trying to piece my life back together. People keep telling me I'll bounce back, that it's just a house, that I'm better off without someone who could do something like that. And maybe they're right. But it doesn't feel like just a house to me. It was supposed to be my safe place, the thing I worked my whole life for, and now I'm starting over with nothing. Sometimes I get so angry I can't breathe. Other times, I just sit there numb, staring at the walls, wondering how I missed the signs. How could I have lived with someone for so long and not seen who they really were? I replay conversations in my head, moments when they avoided eye contact, times when they were distant, and now every little thing feels like it was a clue I ignored. I haven't heard from them since. Not a call, not a text, nothing. Just gone. The silence almost hurts worse than the betrayal. Like I wasn't even worth an explanation beyond a few cold sentences on a piece of paper. I don't know what happens next. I'm trying to focus on small steps. Getting through the day, finding a more permanent place to stay, figuring out how to rebuild my savings. But at night when everything is quiet, the grief comes back. I think about standing in that empty living room the day we got the keys, the way I felt like I'd finally made it, and I wonder if I'll ever feel that again. If you've read this far, thank you. I don't really know why I'm posting, maybe just because I need someone to know what happened. Maybe because writing it down makes it real and forces me to face it. I just know I've never felt so lost, and admitting that is the only honest thing I can do right now.